Greetings, fellow humans. I am Hugh.
And I am Man.
And together we are definitely not
Two
kobolds in a trench coat. We enjoy human activities, such as paying taxes,
having existential crises,
and RPG horror stories. Let's see what we've got today.
Today, we have a discussion on DM's metagaming, a player railroaded into killing an NPC, then blamed for it, an inescapable wet room of darkness, and a player kicked for making an agendered ooze. In a DM metagame by I Don't Exist 1923. I play a D&D 5e campaign with my friends, and it's a quest grind with no real story. I'm playing a cleric and my friend is playing a vengeance paladin, and at level 5, we had an issue with hold person. After my friend got hold person at level 5, my DM rubbed his eyes and looked at his phone, scrolling down and down. I soon found out that all the quests were changed from bandits, orcs, and humanoids to undead to make the spell useless. But after I used turn undead on the zombies we were facing, he again looked at his phone, scrolled down, and changed the quests to monsters and beasts, and just anything that would not be affected by turn undead and hold person. That's about it. My problem with this is that he's actively making spells and abilities useless. To finish it off, here's a list of things that he is avoiding for monsters. Low mental stats to combat my spell save, low attack bonuses because we both have high AC, low damage or damage over time because the paladin's high hit points, low con and dex for the paladin's smite other than divine smite. Just one high HP enemy because the path to the grave plus paladin go brrr.
So the premise of the question is correct. DMs can absolutely metagame, although I wouldn't call it metagaming. I would just call it being a bad DM. A good DM will look at what you can and can't do as a player, and then present you a mix of challenges based on ones that make best use of your abilities, but also ones that you are less effective against in order to give you a challenge and to make you think of more innovative solutions.
Yeah, your job as a DM is not to win. Your job as a DM is to facilitate a fun gaming experience where people get to be challenged to use spells maybe in different ways, to use strengths in ways that make it fun for the players, but also challenge them to think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. This is turning it into players versus DM mentality and making it combative versus the DM. The DM is an enemy and the DM is treating you like an enemy rather than someone who is just role-playing your enemies and trying to provide a fun game.
Yeah, I've even had a DM at one point that was like, we can't use a certain spell. They had banned a certain spell from being ever used. I get that some spells are a little OP, but then also sometimes it's fun to use an OP spell to get around certain things, and props to people for being creative. That's all I'm gonna say.
The only spell I routinely see banned by DMs is Silvery Barbs, because it is kind of overpowerful. But with other spells, DMs should really just learn how to work around them rather than just outright banning them and killing the player's fun. My DM forced my player character to kill a beloved non-player character and blamed the death on me. By Reddit user CoinSniffer32. I mean, you do you, boo.
Sniff them coins.
Don't let anyone crush your dreams. This story is from a couple of years ago in a group I no longer play with. Details will be a little bit fuzzy, as I'm going completely from memory, but I'm going to try my best. So a little background, this group is online. That was fully online. We used Discord and Roll20 and played with all cameras off. It was just us, our computers, and a dream. DM had created the world and story, but we were using 5e rules. The lore and vibe were all over the place. It really just what was their current hyperfixation and how they can put it into D&D. I have no problem with that, as I kind of do the same thing when I DM, but it did make for some confusing world building. The story of the game revolved around us being the first to forge this ultimate sword before an evil demon lord does. Basically, the story was a chosen one story around one of the party members, not me, and we had to aid them in forging the sword to vanquish their evil dad. However, we got sidetracked. It ended up having the same urgency as Skyrim's main quest. This needs a lot of backstory, so here we go. I swear it's necessary to understand the context. My character was a tiefling artificer who grew up in a cult of Asmodeus. They ran away when they were old enough and started adventuring. I loved this character. At some point, my character had come across their old cult and the DM, in the character of the old cult leader, asked me to rejoin. I decided yes, why not? and had my character leave the party for a bit to rejoin the cult. It wasn't the best thing I could have done in hindsight, and I do take accountability that I didn't stop and ask the DM if I could do this rather than just going ahead. However, in the days after that session, we took a little break. During this time, the DM and I worked out what my character would do during this time skip and what rejoining the cult for a bit meant for them. I decided my character would definitely had enough of the cult and would try to leave. The DM got excited at this prospect and wanted to have a one-on-one session outside the scheduled time. We were online, so this was possible. In that session, my character somehow ended up getting a one-on-one meet with Asmodeus, where it was revealed that I was his great-grandchild and he thought the current cult was taking his name in vain. He offered me a pack to lend me his power to take down the cult and be able to finally escape once and for all. I accepted the pack and multi-classed into Warlock. I was pretty stoked for this. Characters taking on Warlock levels happened more times than it should in that group's games. I was excited. I could have my little artificer be one of the Warlock multi-classes. Also, I was a higher level than the party, so that was pretty cool. After that, the party met back up with my character, in a way that wasn't really satisfying, but that's another story, who now leads that sect of the cult. My character leaves the cult to fend off for itself and rejoins the party.
So this is a great setup. I think that it's a really interesting background, and then the DM actually asked you, hey, do you want to rejoin? I don't really think that OP should feel guilty for rejoining because the DM literally offered obviously in character, but they didn't clarify, so they might be feeling a little guilt over that.
I'm going to assume OP left a lot of reasoning details out because it seems a bit wishy-washy. Oh, cool, I'm going to do this or that. It seems a little bit not much reasoning, but I'm just going to assume OP left that out.
Yeah, and here's the thing, if the DM hadn't wanted that to happen, they wouldn't have provided a scenario where it could have happened. And then they tied it back together, being like, oh, you're actually the great-grandchild or grandchild or whatever of Asmodeus. So again, this is all really cool. I'm interested to see how it devolves, though.
Fast forward a couple of sessions and we're in an interdimensional mansion meeting with two important NPCs discussing the fate of the world regarding the all-powerful sword. It is established that my character communicates with their patron through their mechanical arm, which carries a demonic red energy in the cogs and wiring. Aesthetics are very important to me. This communication lets Asmodeus spy on me, I think, but also acts as my character's arcane focus for their warlock spells. Well, actually it was the arcane focus for the artificer and warlock spells, and it was a hidden gun too. It was pretty important for her to keep around. I was just going along with things, trying to make sense of the story and lore, when suddenly a demon comes crashing through the walls and starts attacking everyone. I don't remember if we rolled initiative, but it wouldn't have mattered as we were way too underleveled for this fight. The DM describes our attacks as barely doing anything. I try to shoot the demon with my character, I think fails the saving throw, and is knocked unconscious as she is moving. I try to shoot the demon when my character, I think, fails a saving throw and is knocked unconscious as she is thrown against the wall. Before anything else happens, the DM describes the arm glowing brighter and my character starts moving. She quickly charges into battle, scaring off the demon, and it becomes apparent she is possessed by Asmodeus. I ask if I can do something here, but the DM says I can't do anything. In all the chaos, one of the NPCs helping us had died. I think from the demon attack, but I can't be sure. As my character comes to, the surviving NPC immediately blames her for the attack, saying that bringing the arm with the power of Asmodeus in this interdimensional mansion alerts the BBEG to his location. He angrily sends us away and the session ends. The party, in character, get mad at me for causing his death, and I keep repeating I had no idea this would happen. As far as I knew, I was never told this specific thing would happen and this specific NPC would die because of it.
So I guess my question is if this was lore and also the arm was necessary for the character to have a spell focus, why wouldn't the DM say anything?
I mean, it's a deal with the Lord of the Hells. He's not necessarily going to be upfront about the magic item arcane focus he's giving you and what it does and what it enables him to do. Obviously, everyone is wrong to be so mad at OP and maybe taking it a bit too far. However, I feel like that's not information that should have necessarily been freely offered and is actually quite a cool plot twist.
So, I mean, I can understand, where the DM is coming from wanting to sort of spring a cool lore thing and a cool plot twist. That's definitely within his right. But I can understand if OP felt a little, excuse me, where is this coming from? Because they felt like, well, this is something that I need to have.
Hidden effects of magical items is a cool thing. especially when that magical item comes from the Lord of the Hells himself. If OP never questioned it, attempt to figure out what the other side of this deal was, that's more on them than the DM, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. Either way, I think it was unfair for part of the roleplay to be the NPC blaming OP for that happening and being like, my friend died because of you. It feels a little punitive, in my opinion.
In the following sessions, whenever these two NPCs are brought up, and it's a lot because they are integral to reforging the sword, my character gets blamed for the death. And it's not just simple teasing. It was the NPCs getting mad I had the audacity to bring my arcane focus around with me and causing the death of an NPC we had been spending weeks trying to meet. At the time, I didn't want to tell the party how much it bothered me because I didn't want to be a spoilsport, and really a small part of me tried to accept that it was deserved punishment for my character's actions. The excuse the DM had was something along the lines of evil power attracts more evil and you accepted the pact with an evil demon lord, so bad things are going to happen. I don't know who's right or wrong here. I still can't make up my mind if it was deserved punishment for my character's actions, or if the DM had very specific plot point in mind and hand of God their way to it. I think the Warlock Pact was a massive character moment for my PC, but it was very much spoiled by this future events. In any case, this won't be my last post here, as I have many more horror stories to share from this group. TLDR. My player character accepted a Warlock Pact with Asmodeus, which led to the BBEG being able to track the party. The DM took control of my PC during a vital fight where a demon sent by the BBEG attacked us. The DM used that to describe how an NPC we had spent weeks tracking had died from the monster attack.
Well, there's definitely opportunity for some really cool roleplay here of making a deal with the devil and all of that kind of stuff. The DM seems to be using it to railroad to a specific plot or a storyline that he wants.
So yeah, that's absolutely right. Whilst OP definitely should have been more inquisitive in character and taken more onus into, okay, I've made a deal with the devil, with the Lord of the Hells. What's the catch here? The DM took full advantage of that and forced a very massive plot point where the players had no agency and no control. And then the party blaming them so heavily to the point where it almost sounds like OP felt bullied is not okay. A spellcaster is always going to have their arcane focus on them, so of course they're going to have had that with them. I can understand a bit of resentment for not considering what the devil actually wanted out of this, but yeah, they definitely sounded railroaded, you're right.
Yeah, at the end of the day, things like this, they can be used as great roleplay moments, and they can help progress certain plot points, for sure. But when all of a sudden you become the bad guy for having a thing that your DM gave you, just because you weren't inquisitive enough in character, I think that's where the problem is with this DM. The Wet Room of Darkness by Reddit user ItchyInfluence5737. I posted this as a comment a while back and have been told a couple of times that I should put it in as a post, so here goes. Nearly 15 years ago now, a fella I was dating pretty casually was invited to play D&D by a superior at his work. So he and a few friends of his co-workers showed up to the guy's house and got started. After rolling character his superior, the DM says to them, "You're all awakened, but at first you're not sure what you have. The darkness is total, and all you can tell is that you're in an enclosed space with about an inch of liquid on what seems to be a stone and dirt floor." So he and his buddies then spent a total of about 2 hours doing things like trying to taste the water. It tastes exactly like muddy water. Screamed to see if they could get some idea of what was going on via the sound of the echoes. They couldn't, etc. One of the players had a spell that made light, but when they tried to cast it, the DM said, "You recite the incantation and perform the somatics, but the darkness remains absolute." They called it after about 2 hours, and my fella told me about it over lunch a few days later. Wow. We were both giggling over it and kind of coming up with half-hearted explanation for what was going on. So he got invited to go back the next session. Not the next week, but the week after, and went, thinking that maybe something had happened while he was away and that they actually were going to do something. But nope. He gets there and everyone is still in the wet room, unable to see. After about an hour of the same sort of thing, my fella zoned out, and by the time they called the session, no forward progress had been made. A couple of days later, he and I met up to shoot pool, and he told me about it again. And he had apparently been invited back to a third session, but he made up an excuse. He was not invited back, and I guess things were mildly awkward between him and his superior after that for a while. He left for another job about 8 months later and asked one of his coworkers what had come of the game, and the guy told him that everyone had gotten frustrated and an argument had broken out, but the DM had been unwilling to budge, so they all decided that they were done with it.
Honestly, I was just kind of waiting for the tentacles to be described in that story.
Right?
I'm kind of relieved that it didn't, but also this somehow sounds more frustrating and annoying. I mean, what's the way out? I'm sure they tried punching the walls, searching around, everything, Come on, give your players something. Give them a little clue, jeez.
I don't even know if they found the walls, to be honest.
OP didn't describe everything they tried, so I assumed they, threw stuff or at least tried and located the walls.
Yeah, I'm just super curious, like, what was the DM thinking with this? Like, and why did he let it go on so long?
Hence why I'm shocked there wasn't tentacles involved.
Right? Like, it genuinely, I'm just like, what kind of DM just wants to sit there and watch people try to figure out their way out of a room that they can't seem to get out of? Like, is that even fun for him?
Every DM likes to watch their players suffer to some extent, but even the most sadistic DM has got to get bored after this long of watching them stuck in one room, just as the players are going to get frustrated with them.
And I mean, is it really suffering if they're just bored out of their minds?
Kicked from a game for making an ooze character agender by Hairy Excuse 6402. TLDR, I got kicked from a game for making a genderless character that was part of a species that was genderless by default. Couple of things you got to know about me first. I'm a freaking pack rat when it comes to homebrew. My homebrew folder on Google Drive is probably bigger than the entire hard drive on the laptop I'm writing this from, and a lot of my character concepts involve the homebrew there in some capacity. Until given a reason to believe otherwise, I always assume the best of people. Well, there's your first mistake, OP. People are awful. I joke, maybe.
Do we? Do we really joke?
Now then, let the story begin. I'm scrolling through the LFG ads on a Discord server I'm on, looking for a game to play in, and find a Gestalt game in need of players. I send in an application, get accepted, join the server, and one of the other players, who are called Soft and Wet, is posting nasty memes in the general chat. I assume they're being shared as satire and ignore the memes. I talked to the DM over private message to say that I'd like to use some homebrew for my collection, an ooze race from Heliana's Guide to Monster Hunting, and a full-blown alchemist class with an entire subclass dedicated to making oozes, and both brews got approved. I shared the backstory with the DM, he loves it, and I begin work on making my character sheet.
Alright, I'm just gonna say it. Never ignore the Nazi memes.
At that point, you turn around, you walk straight back out the door like you were never there. That's an immediate walk away wherever it is.
That's a literal red flag. A red flag with a swastika in the middle of it.
A quick tangent, I originally made this character back in like 2023 for a game that fizzled due to a DM with commitment issues, and my character did end up having a wonderful relationship with an NPC in that game before it stopped. Back to the horror story, and one of the rules the DM made it blatantly clear was non-negotiable was that we wouldn't be exploring LGBTQ+ issues. Now keep in mind, I honestly just assumed that meant nobody would get subjected to homos/transphobia, and that gender and sexuality wouldn't be a factor. So you can imagine my surprise when I said that my character went by they them pronouns, and Soft and Wet responds with some variation of, "Be ready to be referred to as that thing then," while the DM responded to me playing an agender specimen of a race that is genderless by default by banning me from the game server and blocking me, then sending another LFG ad in the same exact server. I responded by saying, "Warning for everyone interested, I got kicked from this game for making my character non-binary," with one of the other players, somebody who was planning on playing a character from Dark Souls named Melina, backing up my statement. Edit. To everyone who said I dodged a bullet, it's far more accurate to say I got force pushed out of the bullet's path by the shooter's small dick energy. Edit 2 Electric Boogaloo. To everyone asking where to find the class and or race, the race was Oozkin from Heliana's Guide to Monster Hunting, and the class was by Mage Hand Press. If you can access Reddit, you can use your preferred search engine to look them up.
Yeah, there was a lot of red flags early on. You know, I agree. Dodged a bullet, forced out of the bullet's path, however you want to look at it. This was a very good thing that you did not have to play this game.
It's good you found this out very early on without having to sit there and endure session after session of abuse or passive aggression. Basically getting kicked as soon as they realize what you were doing is probably a good thing because you would have just suffered more with those people.
Yeah, it's with these, like, I don't know, pronoun princesses or whatever you want to call them. It's the same guys that are like, if you have pronouns, swipe left. Everybody has pronouns, and this creature was not a human. It was a humanoid, maybe, creature that was agender by nature, not because they decided it as a player.
Getting mad at an ooze for not having a gender has the exact same energy as getting mad at M&Ms for making the green M&M less attractive.
Tucker Carlson, is that you running a D&D game?
Hey man,
Hey, what?
why couldn't the beholder stop blinking?
Why not?
Because it had some beauty in it. That joke was submitted to us by Rio Drake. If you have a joke you'd like us to read, you can submit it in the comments below. Or if you have a story you'd like us to read, there's an email address in the description. And with that, we have definitely not been
Two kobolds in a trench coat.
Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and make the necessary sacrifices to Tiamat. We'll see you next time.